So here to present BookNet Canada's new and improved sales data tool. Please welcome Neha Thanki. Neha is a project manager at BookNet Canada, where primary projects include BNC sales data, a comprehensive market intelligence and sales tracking tool for the Canadian trade print market, and BNC BiblioShare, which helps publishers maintain, improve, and share their bibliographic data. Before joining BookNet, Neha worked in trade sales at Scholastic Canada. Neha.
So this was a really huge year for SalesData. We launched our new site a little over a month ago in February. Our main goal for the new site was to make it fast. And our other goal was to make the reporting structure flexible so that we can test new features and new reporting quickly and easily. We've seen about 36,000 reports run on the new site in the past 6 weeks since it launched. And that's about 1,200 reports for every business day, which is pretty massive. SalesData has a total of 1,938 users from about 624 different accounts. And our accounts cover publishers, retailers, distributors, wholesalers, sales agents, and libraries. We receive data from about 85% of Canadian book retailers, print book retailers, I should say. We aggregate this data and make it available to you guys on the reporting site. So while the site looks very different now, the data that powers it still comes from the same sources. We get our bibliographic records from Bowker, and currently our database contains data for over 30 million ISBNs. This is a count of all the ISBNs that we have a bibliographic record attached to them. Of these 30 million ISBNs, a little over 2 million have any recorded activity. And by activity, I mean ISBNs that have either been ordered, stocked, or sold in the Canadian marketplace. Of these, 1.1 million have had more than one sale. To get really nerdy for a quick second, all the data we get gets stored every week, row by row. There's separate rows for every ISBN every time we record any sales or inventory activity. So far we've amassed over 1 billion rows of data, and this number keeps growing every week. So this brings me back to our #1 goal when it comes to sales data: speed. The site has to be fast enough to mine these billion rows and return the necessary results as fast as possible. So according to the usage that we've recorded on the new site, the average speed or time taken to get the results for the 36,000 reports that have been run has been 3 seconds on average. So from here on, as we amass more and more rows of data, our biggest challenge is to keep speeds down to these levels. So let's get into some of the reporting that's available on the site. For the purposes of this presentation, we can't show you exact numbers, so please be aware that you'll see some X's in place of numbers on some of these slides. First up, SalesData can give you quick overall charts of sales over different periods of time. You can view sales for the full Canadian market or just your sales in a retailer market of your choice. This site also gives you charts of top 10 subjects over different reporting periods. The comparisons between this year and last year are particularly useful in determining what's hot right now. All the retailers that submit data to us usually get their own market on the site. So some, like Indigo, get an overall market, but they also get broken down markets for the different provinces that they sell in. You can look up your sales in the different channels or markets that you sell into, or if you're a retailer, then you look up your sales in the different stores that you own, because each store will have its own market. You can see these sales over different time periods, like in this slide, or you can chop them up by subjects or formats to see if there are any gaps in, for example, a certain subject sales in markets that traditionally do well for you in that subject. The site also has reports that will give you a view of specific title sales in the different channels you sell to or in the different stores you own. This report will give you unit sales, but it can also give you on-hand numbers for each market. And in this way, you can quickly assess whether there are stock gaps in certain markets, or if there are markets with ample stock but abnormal sales numbers. If you want to go further with some titles, then you can get a more refined view of how specific titles behaved over time in specific markets. For example, if you have titles that are related to an annual holiday, you can compare their sales over the years in a particular market. In this case, we're looking at some example Christmas titles and how they've fared in the month of December for the past 5 years. You can also use this type of report to look at series sales over the months that their related TV shows or movies were released, or you can use it to compare, for example, your children's book sales during Word on the Street for the past few years. Basically, we're trying to make seasonal reporting quick and easy to do. You can also use a titles over time report like this to search for comparable titles for all the new books that you're about to release, or for new titles that you're trying to get buy-in for. For example, the site can give you a total of a title's first 13 weeks of sale from its date of first sale, and it can do this for multiple titles at the same time. So one workflow that people have had some success with in searching for comparable titles involves two different reports. One is the Bestseller Report, and the second is the Multiple ISBN Report, as seen here. The first step is to run a Bestseller Report. The bestseller will give you a ranked list of titles that sold in your choice of market over your choice of time. The data includes sales in units and dollars, and also bibliodata like subject category and format. You can also run this report using very specific criteria to get a narrower set of results. So for example, when doing comp title research, you could run this report to download a massive list of 50,000 titles that have sold in the Canadian marketplace. And you can further narrow that list to just titles published in the last 2 years to keep your comparable titles within a relevant time frame. The downloaded results, as seen here, will give you all kinds of additional bibliographic information. You'll see contributor names, subjects, formats, list price, etc. for each ISBN. You can filter according to the specific subject or list price that you're comparing to get a small list of comparable ISBNs. For example, here I'm looking for comp titles for an organized crime nonfiction book that I am pretending to publish. I've filtered to view only the true crime / organized crime titles, and have further filtered according to list price to see only those titles that have cost between $19 and $25. So this gives me a relevant list of ISBNs that are potentially good comparables. The next step is to determine what the first 13 weeks of sales were for each of these ISBNs. So I take this list of ISBNs and I run it through the Multiple ISBN Report using a reporting period of initial 13 weeks from first sale. This gives me the total sales for each of these titles for their first 13 weeks, as highlighted in the slide. Sorry, it's probably a little bit difficult to see, but you're not going to see any numbers there anyway, so just know that it's there. And it also gives me a week-by-week breakdown for each title. So using these totals, you can choose your comps exactly and have good data to back up your sales forecasts or by numbers. Now, if instead you're having to consider high-level questions like how different organizations are doing in the market overall, then the site can show you a quick list of the top 500 publishers or distributors in the Canadian market, along with a pivoted view of their market share in different subjects or formats. It's a handy tool when you're looking at buying a new type of subject, or you want to see who else is doing well with the particular subject. You can also specify your own publishing house if you want to see what your own % share of the market is for a specific subject or format. So the site lets you look for a specific publisher's share for a specific subject. So for example, if you've published a poetry book that's doing really well for you, but you want to understand what kind of impact it's having on the poetry market as a whole, you can run a publisher market share for poetry to see how much of your sales make up the total poetry sales in the Canadian market. The subjects list on the new site is identical to the 2015 BISAC list. It includes the new young adult classifications, and as publishers begin using them, we're seeing more and more sales come through for those subjects. So to monitor these types of code changes, or generally just to keep an eye on popular trends, you can use the site to view how any particular group of subjects has done over time. So for example, you can easily see exactly how the explosion of coloring books has impacted the market over time. We're always actively recruiting retailers to add to our site. We've added 8 new indies over the past few months. You can see a full list of our retailers that contribute data to our panel on the retailer list page. Oftentimes, retailers respond really well to some publisher encouragement. So if you're a publisher or a sales rep who would like to see specific retailers that we may not have as yet, then definitely get in touch. We have some language that you can use to explain what participation in sales data means for retailers and what we can do to make that happen. In addition to new retailers, over the past couple of months, we've also added Indigo online sales data to the site. So Indigo online data has been available for a couple of years as a raw data feed, but as of last month, we've added it to the reporting on the site as a market. So if you had access to the raw feed, then you will automatically have access to the new Indigo online markets. If you have access to Indigo physical data, but not their online data, then definitely get in touch with Indigo to indicate to them that you would like access to their online data as well. We usually need an official go-ahead from them to give you views of this data for your account on the site. So next up, we're working on releasing a new version of Catalyst's sales data reports. This is mostly a hidden change that will allow Catalyst to use data from the new sales data site, and which will make the reporting a little bit faster. Then we're working on adding BNC Prospector reports to the new site. Prospector is a gap analysis tool that we offer to independent retailers. It allows them to compare their sales and stock levels against those of an anonymous group of similar retailers to see if they have any gaps in their inventory. Bringing those reports into sales data will mean that retailers won't have to go to a different site altogether to do this kind of gap analysis. And we're also going to begin addressing the feature requests that we've received by bringing them forward to our advisory committee and using their feedback to prioritize and assign the requests to future releases. Finally, we're working on collecting circulation and holds data from libraries so that we can add it to sales data reporting. Pam is going to talk more about that in her presentation, which is coming up next. So that's all from me. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us at salesdata@booknetcanada.ca or directly at me and Thanki at booknetcanada.ca.